Good morning. This is Penina Taylor, and you're listening to Unorthoboxed with Penina Taylor. Boy, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Where we take a look at everything Jewish, inside the box, outside the box, controversial, inspirational, hopefully inspirational. Today, I have with me by virtual studio, Andrea Grinberg. Andrea is the owner of Rapunzel, spelled with a W, as in rap, which is both a blog and a business. Welcome, Andrea, to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Andrea. For everybody who doesn't know, this is our inaugural program. This is the first time that I'm interviewing somebody for this radio slash video. I don't even know. We're going to have to come up with a new name for a radio show that's also a video program. But anyway, I'm just very, very excited to have been able to start this program, my first interview with Andrea. Andrea and I first met through YouTube, and I stumbled across a tutorial on how to tie Jewish scarves. And there's this lovely young woman demonstrating how to tie a scarf. No words, just classical music in the background. And I thought to myself, wow, this woman really reminds me actually of a friend of mine named Rivka Malka. Now, Rivka Malka lives in Baltimore. We used to live in Baltimore. And she was a dear friend of mine who I happen to buy scarves from. And she sold Israeli scarves. And I thought, wow, these two women ought to meet. And so the next logical step was what, right? In today's day and age, I friended Andrea on Facebook, and we've been friends ever since. So Andrea, how did you start making YouTube tutorials? What inspired you to begin making those tutorials?
So thank you for having me, by the way. But can you hear me well?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I was wondering if there was a bit of a delay. So my husband and I had just gotten married, and we moved to Chicago. And I was this blissfully naive, newlywed lady, just really enjoying wrapping my scarves every single day. I had like a gift from Hashem that I just was really happy doing it every single morning. And I would walk around town and talk, and every single woman I had talked to did not enjoy covering her hair. Whether she wore a sheitel, whether she wore a snood, whether she wore a scarf. There were actually, I think, 2 or 3 women that wore scarves. She saw it as a burden. She felt shlachi. She didn't feel beautiful. She didn't feel that it honored her marriage. And she didn't enjoy it. And I was like, this makes me so happy. And these other women are not happy. What can I do about this? And this is actually something, we'll talk about it a little more later, is in Rapunzel, my absolute bottom line goal is that all I want to do is make women happy. And that drives everything that I do, because, thank God I wasn't happy for my whole life, and we'll talk a bit about that later, but I am very, very, Baruch Hashem, very happy right now. And I want to share that with the world. So that's really how it started.
Oh, very cool. Thank you. So I'm just wondering, what kind of challenges do you find when you meet Jewish women as you travel around? And because you also do shows where you not only sell your scarves, but you demonstrate to people how to tie them in a beautiful and creative way. And what are some of the things that you've seen? Like you said that people weren't happy, but do they share specific things about how it's a burden for them?
Definitely. And again, scarf tying is just one aspect of a woman's self-esteem. The greatest challenge, and this is something that I try to bring to every show, the greatest challenge is that we don't love ourselves. We don't, as women especially, a lot of women don't understand that there is an infinite spark of our Creator within every single one of us. And that makes us so valuable and so beautiful, regardless of what the media tells us, regardless of what the world around us tells us. We are so, so beautiful and wonderful, every single one of us. And
Absolutely.
Just because I'm beautiful doesn't make another woman less beautiful. We all have to bring each other up. So that's, I guess, my greatest challenge, but it's my greatest joy, is helping women realize that. And through the art of hair covering, especially, like if a woman really, she discovers the right color for her, she discovers the right style, she really feels like it's hers for the first time, you see her face light up. So sometimes it comes, it happens within the first 5 seconds. And sometimes it takes over half an hour of my spending time with one to really, really find what works with her. And sometimes it can involve a certain amount of tears and really, really getting to the core of why she feels like she's not worthy of being beautiful, why she's not worthy of doing this mitzvah in a way that honors her creator and honors her marriage. But once we get to the root of that, it's the best. It's really the best ever. It's beautiful.
That sounds amazing. Now I'm going to get just a little controversial with you for a minute because I got to bring that aspect in. But I'm just curious, have you received any kind of opposition from women from the more religious sector on their concern over, tying beautiful fancy scarves rather than wearing shaitels, for example, or that maybe it's immodest because it's beautiful, it's very colorful? Would you share a little bit about that?
I'll definitely share a little bit about that. First of all, you have to, when someone asks you a question like that, you have to figure out why they're asking. Because a lot of women might, let's say, look at me and say, I'm wearing a pretty normal scarf for myself today. However, on one woman, let's say a more introverted, soft-spoken, maybe petite woman, this would look not modest on her. So in Judaism, we have certain laws that we have to follow. We have certain parameters that we follow throughout the day. And like my parameter when I wake up is that I have to cover my hair. And regardless of what some other people have, said about me, I am not against shaitels. I love shaitels. I just don't wear them. I don't feel like that's my way of doing the mitzvah. So when I wake up every morning, I have to cover my hair. How I do that is where the question lies. So in Judaism, and this is something I'm sure you're going to have more people that you interview that talk about this, we're not supposed to, as women, not be beautiful. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. Women are beautiful. The world around us is beautiful. Hashem created a world full of color and full of light and full of beauty. And we are supposed to represent that beauty. We are supposed to bring that beauty into the world. However, there is a very big difference between being attractive and being attracting. Right. And as women, we have this innate sense within ourselves. We have something called Bina, which is a special kind of woman's wisdom. And when I look at myself in the morning, when I'm getting dressed, I know whether I'm pushing the envelope a little too far. And I think every woman knows that. What you mentioned, Rivka Malka. What looks good on Rivka Malka might look a little too much on me because she's just a bigger personality than I am. And what looks good on me might not look good on another woman. It might not look modest on another woman. So we have to really ask ourselves in the morning when we put our clothes on, again, within the parameters of halacha, am I doing this in a way that honors myself and honors my creator and in a way that is beautiful but modest? And as women, we know. We really, really know. Like if you're winking at yourself in the mirror, you're pushing it a little too far. But if you feel, wow, I'm really honoring myself, then you're good. You're going to be great.
Awesome. Thank you. So I know that you travel around the United States. Also, I think you've been to Canada, right? Yeah. And I know there's a lot of women in the UK that are interested in having you come. Yeah. So I am curious though, and I'm cheating a little because I already know the answer, but what has surprised you the most about non-Jewish women that you come in contact with?
Okay, so the biggest surprise since starting Rapunzel is the non-Jewish crowd that they just gravitate towards this video of me covering my head with a scarf. Like, why? Why would someone secular that doesn't have to cover her hair want this? And that's the question that most Jewish women ask me. Believe it or not, I don't have the exact statistics because obviously I don't really know. But from what I can see, 2/3 of the women that are in the Rapunzel community are not Jewish.
That's a huge percentage.
Huge. I didn't set out, and I still don't set out. I don't, advertise or even let the non-Jewish community know that I exist. I would like to, help more people in chemotherapy centers and that that cover for different reasons, but they somehow found this and they somehow need this. So what has surprised me most is what you said, is the non-Jewish community and is how they gravitate towards hair covering. And when I've asked a couple of these women, like, why would you want to do this? And again, if you had asked me before I'd become an observant Jew, would I want to do this? I probably would have considered it, because if there was Rapunzel out there when I was, 16, I probably would have thought it was pretty cool. So a lot of women say that you just exude this happiness when you cover your hair. I exude that happiness, and the women of Rapunzel exude that happiness and that joy and that glow, and I want that.
Right.
To say they want, every single woman, every single human being wants happiness. So if they see that happiness and they see that I'm revealing that happiness through modest dressing in the way that I do, then they want a little piece of that, because it's great, it's wonderful. And so many women, they're so sick and tired of the media telling them that they're too fat, too this, too that, that you have to squeeze into this and reveal that. And it's a way of women taking it's like the most rebellious feminist thing for a lot of women. A lot of women cover their hair for feminist reasons, that's the coolest thing ever, because a lot of people think that covering your hair is like the most anti-feminist thing in the world. A lot of women are covering their hair for feminist reasons and for political feminism, to basically say, like, in your face, media, you can't tell me what to do or what to wear. I'm going to own my own beauty, and I'm going to walk in the world as a beautiful woman and show them what I want to show them. So that's great.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mentioned that, because one of my soapboxes is the fact that women today, and it's been going on for a long time, but we've been sold this bill of goods. We've been sold this lie that if we expose our bodies, that is the ultimate expression of our own power and our own freedom. And of course, the people who sold us this lie are the people who get the most out of seeing our bodies. Right. And the fact that when a woman realizes that the most powerful expression of herself and her power and her freedom is to choose who sees what, not to expose everything and give it away, that is actually the most powerful, most feminist, if you will, take on things. And it's really just fascinating when you find women who latch onto this. Their lives are totally revolutionized.
Exactly. And it's changed their relationships with themselves. Most of them are not religious, within their marriage or their other relationships, and really they walk around the world feeling great about themselves. It's wonderful.
You mentioned that most of these women are not religious, but the majority of the women who are not Jewish, who are part of the Rapunzel community, are not the ones who are covering for health reasons, right? I mean, there's a small percentage who do, but I think that the larger percentage is out of this sense of power and security, right?
Exactly. I mean, so many people say that, I cover for spiritual reasons, whether or not you call that religious. The definitions are very gray there. So I don't know. Some people say I cover for very secular reasons. I'm an atheist that covers my hair. Other people say, it makes me feel closer to that infinite force that I don't have a name for. So.
And we even have some pagan, not goddesses, because they're not the goddesses, but some people high up in some what we would consider some very strange religious models. And
Buddhists, Muslims and Christians, of course. What else?
Sikh, right?
Sikh, yep, exactly.
Yeah,
pretty much every single major religion that I've ever heard of has something to say about hair covering, has at least one sect that likes to cover their hair. So we got all those women.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, why don't we change direction a little bit, change it up, and tell us a little bit about your personal story. Tell us a little bit about Andrea.
Okay. What would you like to hear?
Well, you were talking about how when you started covering your head, you were absolutely thrilled. Now, you're a Baal Tshuva, like I am, meaning that you were not raised in a religious Jewish home, although you were born Jewish. You were born Jewish, right?
I was born Jewish.
Oh, okay. All right. So rather than reveal it now, go ahead and tell us your story. I don't want to spoil it. Go ahead.
Okay, so feel free to stop me if I start going off on a tangent or anything. I do that. But as you said, I was born in a Jewish home, and I was raised Jewish with an emphasis on the ish. And I don't want to call myself a rebel because I'm a pretty, I'm a nice person, but as someone that really likes to go to sleep at night feeling whole, when I was growing up, I really did not get the whole Judaism thing. I would be asked in high school, what religion are you? I'd be like, oh, well, my parents are Jewish, but I'm not. It doesn't have anything to do with who I am. Because I was into philosophy and music and, and medicine and all these things. And like, I didn't think that Judaism had anything to say about my morality. Like anything that I'd encountered really was very backwards and very contradictory. So I definitely, I shunned that part of myself. And then, it's a very common story. I went on birthright. My father forced me to go on birthright. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be stuck on a trip with 40 Jews. Like, I didn't friends. Like, any Jewish people I'd really met, I did not get along with. I'm like, what am I doing? Okay, fine, it's free. I'll do it because it's free. And that trip changed my life. I woke up when the plane landed. I woke up crying for the first time, like really feeling like something in my soul had come together. And I decided on that trip that whatever had happened to me on that trip, that I was not going to walk away from it. That whatever this was, whatever this feeling was, I was going to explore it to the fullest, no matter what it meant. And that's a very scary thing because I am a musician. And my actual profession is that I'm a cellist. And playing the cello means that you play on Friday nights. That's your career. If you don't play, if you celebrate Shabbat on Friday nights, meaning that you don't play your instrument, like how can you be a cellist? So that was a very scary revelation for me at the beginning. But thank God I saw it through. Part of the way through my journey, I did find out that since my mother, who had passed away, had a conversion, that we were not sure about we just weren't sure what happened in that conversion. Everyone that had been a part of that conversion had passed away.
Oh,
we
wow.
didn't know who had sat on her Beit-Din. We didn't know what had really happened there. So there was a lot of gray area. So because Judaism is passed down through the mother, I was a big question mark. Whether or not I was Jewish really was a question mark. So I ended up having to do what's called a ger l'chumra, which means that I went through a conversion. So whenever anyone asks me like, oh, what are you about Shiva? Are you convert? I'm like, I'm both. I got the best of all those worlds because while I was exploring my Judaism as a Baal Tshuva, I also got that rite of passage, that beautiful, beautiful commitment of like going into the mikvah and saying I do to Judaism, like saying I do, like I want it all. So it was a wonderful, and it still is a wonderful journey that I had to go through.
I'm just wondering, I don't know if you feel the way that I do now. I did not have any questions as far as my Jewish status halachically, but I have a background in having explored other religions before I came back or discovered Judaism. And people often ask me if I had to go to the mikvah when I came back to Judaism. And some people with my background do, and some people with my background don't. It just depends on the rabbi who's dealing with you coming back. But I always thought to myself, if what I'm doing is the truth, like if this is what I really want and this is what I really believe in, then why wouldn't I anyway? I've always told them that even though the rabbi didn't ask me to, I would have done it in a heartbeat because this was, for me, this was such an amazing revelation and such a, like this door opening to a whole world of truth that I didn't know existed before. And I can see that in your face as you're saying this, as you're talking about, the conversion. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you technically had to convert or not, right? Because of where you went.
So I have a few things to say on that. The first is that, as you said, like when I've been searching my whole life for this happiness that I have right now, which I've been talking about. I think, up until I was in my early 20s, I would talk to my friends and be like, I can count on one hand the moments in my life where I really felt that connection and that fulfillment. And I think the majority of those times were, when I was playing, some really epic piece in orchestra and I just felt, the whole completeness of the world. And when I started exploring Judaism, like this is what I'd been looking for and searching for desperately for my whole life. And I had been searching in some really weird places. And I found it. You know, of course I would do anything for this. And so there's that. So as you said, like, you know, if they want me to go to mikvah, fine. If they, like, you know, whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. And because this is what I'm looking for. This is what my soul needs. And the second thing is that many of my friends who were, I guess you could say, just regular Baal Tshuva, just going through, you know, the process, expressed a lot of jealousy that I got to go to mikveh. Because for many of them, they felt like their bar bat mitzvah had been in vain. They hadn't really committed to anything. They hadn't really started, you know, saying, I do, that I'm going to really take on Judaism and all the mitzvot. So when I got to go to the mikveh and say, like, really go through that rite of passage and emerge as saying, like, I'm going to do this. Today is the day that I started. Every single action that I do has this meaning as a Jewish person. Then they were jealous of that. Again, so I'm not, you know, as I said, like, obviously there was a lot of pain involved when I found out that I might not be Jewish. Obviously there was some anger and, you know, a lot of frustration. When I look back on it in retrospect, I can talk about it in all these lofty ways, but I have many women write to me that go through something similar. And of course, like, to find out that, you know, I might not be Jewish when, like, this is what I've been searching for my whole life. Like, oh my goodness, like, there was, other than my mom dying, that was the most painful thing that ever had happened to me. Wow. But now, of course, it's the most, as you can see on my face, it's the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me as well.
Wow, 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 wow. Amazing. Okay. So now I want to switch gears again back to the head covering. You don't seem to have, it seems like to the outsider that you don't really have any challenges with head covering, but are there any challenges that you personally have had to deal with head covering?
Definitely. So I've been thinking about this a lot, that, you know, Rapunzel has been this wild roller coaster ride of me just saying, like, what does the world need and how can what does the world need and how can I, you know, with my limited tools, how can I give that to the world? So, you know, at first it was just making tutorials with music playing in the background because I was too shy to talk to the camera. And then, you know, making a website and a community and a group on Facebook and all that. And then it did become a store. Like, over the last year and a half, it became an online store. And now it's a business. And now I have to, as a woman, actually do all this business stuff, which I'm a musician. Like, you know, this is, you know, people tell me that I apparently have a good mind for business, and I'm like, okay, you know, I guess it's because my heart is in a good place. But so for me, the real challenge is every single day when I wake up and I tie my scarf is reminding myself why I'm doing this. Because Rapunzel has turned into something now, which is like, it's very big and very beautiful, but I have to pay taxes on it now. It's like, it's become this, you know, it's become this thing that, you know, pays my rent as well. So I really have to, like, remind myself every single day why I'm doing this. And the reason was, like, because I want to make women happy and I want to honor my marriage. And I'm very, very machmir, very strict on, if I were to, like, you know, slide off that path and start, you know, feeling differently, it would get corrupted, I would close down right away. And I'm very, very, like, if, you know, I tell my husband, like, you know, am I getting too businessy? Am I getting too into marketing or anything like that? And, you know, people always tell me, like, you know, what do you do about marketing? What do you do about advertising? Like, no, I do not want to go in that headspace, and I never will. And if I start doing that, you know, you, Penina, you can call me and say, Andrea, it's gone too far, and, like, I'm going to close, because this is about the mitzvah. This is about making women happy. It is not about business.
And you haven't done any real advertising other than social media, right? It's just been word of mouth, yeah?
Yep, word of mouth, Facebook. I think now I have a friend that's helping me with Instagram, because I have no idea what Instagram is, but he's helping me out with it. But yeah, exactly.
How many people do you have in the Rapunzel community? Do you know?
I have no idea. So we have, there's over 10,000 people that are on the Facebook page. And I want to be clear, I've never asked Facebook to advertise that page. I know you can buy likes, but I've never done that. We have over 2,000 women in the fan group on Facebook. But it's probably more than that. It's probably, like, again, I can't tell how active these people are that like it or don't like it. So it feels pretty extensive, but again, it feels like a nice, small, homey community at the same time. So really, I don't know.
Awesome. Okay. That's just, that number just boggles my mind. 10,000 people that are part of the community, or more, probably more, just through word of mouth. It's amazing. It's amazing time that we live in. Do you have any really awesome inspirational stories from your travels with Rapunzel?
Uh, Let me see. Yes, of course. Uh, but I want to say the most inspirational thing that's been happening to me lately is like recently I've really started, I have to start asking for help because again, I have, when I gave birth recently, I had to have some other women, including you, help me, make some videos and other people model with me and other people, come to the shows with me because I've always been throughout my whole life a do-it-yourselfer.
Sure.
And starting asking for help is one of my challenges. And Rapunzel's gotten to a point where I have to realize that this is not about me anymore. This is not about Andrea making her cute little videos. This is about something really, really meaningful for, as you said, for 10,000 women and God willing more. And I can't do this on my own. So the greatest bracha has been all the women that I've been able to bring onto the team lately. And it's mind boggling. And I get all these emails saying, thank you for, bringing Penina, having Penina make a video for us because like, I connect to her personality more than yours. Or thank you for having a lady with a different face shape or a different body type or a different skin color because I can, connect to her more than they connect to me because I'm Andrea. What works on Andrea doesn't work on everyone, obviously. And so thank God, doing shows with my sister-in-law lately has just been such a blessing. My sister-in-law, her name is Naomi Rose. And she recently came onto the Rapunzel team to help me out with, just everything organizational. And she's been such a light because, now in these shows, like I have someone that has an organized mind that really she really asks women. She's one of those people that she loves one-on-one conversation. So she really finds out what people want, what people need. And I can just be of so much more service now with her.
Awesome. Awesome. It's one of the things that I often talk about in some of my more personal growth directions of things is that we have to learn how to be collaborators instead of competitors. It's really important as women. I don't know if it's the same thing for men. I mean, men seem to be naturally competitive in a certain way, but they don't make it personal. And women, when we feel like somebody is our competition, we just get fiercely competitive and also, they call it being catty and whatever. But what we fail to realize is that when we put our resources together, if you have two talents and I have two talents, I've got access to two talents and you've got access to two talents. But if we put all of our talents on the table, now we each have access to four, which in some regards, I know it's bad math, but in some regards, it's like now we have access between us to 16 because no, that's 8, but whatever. Like I said, bad math. Anyway, so it's really, I think it's an important lesson for our listeners as well to hear about the importance of realizing that you don't have to be Wonder Woman, that you don't have to do it all, and that relying on other women doesn't make you less of a woman, because that's something that we battle with as part of this whole self-esteem and self-image thing that goes hand in hand with the issues of how we cover our head. I mean, I struggle also with how I cover my head because I was told by a stylist, if you're going to be a public speaker and you're going to wear a shaitel and you're going to wear a suit, then that's how you have to always appear. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but, we're so good. And this is one of the reasons I called my show Unorthoboxed, is because we're so good in Judaism at putting people in boxes. And the truth is that not everybody fits in a box. What I look like on paper, the box that you would put me in, if I told you how much of my hair I cover and how much of my skin I cover and whatever, you would put me in a very, very specific box, which would get confused if you started asking about my politics. But also, if you asked me what my favorite style is, now what do you do with me? Here's a woman who on paper looks Haredi. When she opens her mouth, clearly she's not. But her favorite style, you'd probably call me like a hippie. So what do you do? What do you do with me? And on top of that, besides the fact that nobody can figure out what to do with me because I can't figure out what box to put me in, how am I supposed to present an image that will not be a distraction for people to hear what it is that I have to say? Because sometimes, what we look like on the outside, I think that someone famous once said that, what you look on the outside is speaking so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And even though many of us want to eschew those norms, I don't want to be put in a box. I don't want to have to conform. The reality is that God created us with eyes and as visual people, and the way we dress does become to some degree a statement. And so image is something that many Orthodox Jewish women struggle with. I once asked, and this is going to touch on a topic that I think you'll have an answer for, or at least an opinion on. I once asked in a Facebook group that I'm in with other women who are in Jewish leadership positions. And I asked these women, those of you who bring speakers out, because anybody who's not listening to me, I don't know if you know, but I'm a speaker. And I asked these ladies, maybe they're listening for the first time to me. But I asked these ladies, if you are a woman who, you and your husband as a rabbi or a rebbitzin, you bring speakers out, how important is it to you how the woman potential female speaker who's going to come speak for you, how they cover their head? In other words, would it influence you not to bring someone out if they wore a scarf versus a sheitel, or the opposite? And what was really fascinating to me was the women in the group who were women in Jewish leadership, but not the rebbitzins who bring out the speakers. The ones who were more in outreach and especially campus outreach, their comments were all, wear what makes you feel comfortable, wear what makes you feel pretty, be yourself. If you have something good to say, nobody's going to care about the way you cover your head. What they're going to care about is what you have to say. Mm-hmm. The other group of women, the ones who were responsible for bringing out speakers, with the exception of one, out of, I don't know, maybe it was 20, 25 women who responded. With the exception of one, they all responded that they either would not, under any circumstances, bring out a female speaker who wore a scarf, or they would seriously have to consider whether or not what she says was worth bringing her out, considering that she wears a scarf. And a couple of the women even remarked that there are some very famous speakers in the Jewish world, much more learned women than I, much more popular speakers than I, who they will not bring out because she wears a scarf. And that has been a very sad realization for me, that we are so stuck in the mode of putting people in boxes and of image, that we would judge a person based on how they cover their head before we would judge what they have to say. So now I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Oh, I have a lot to say. So I'm going to bring us back to creation, because there's a reason for this. There's a reason why we put people in boxes, and it's a beautiful reason, but as you said, it's a painful reason to really realize how that manifests. Is that when Adam and Chava first were in Gan Eden, they were physical beings, but they were able, when they looked at each other, when they looked at the world around them, they were able to see the inner essence, the soul of everything first, before they saw the body. So if I would, let's say, look at a beautiful woman, I would see her inner beauty first, and then I would see that, oh, she's Penina, she has a beautiful smile, and she has teeth, and all these things. But first I would see your inner beauty, and that was a really, that's what we're hoping for to get back to eventually, God willing, when Mashiach comes. When we ate from the tree of knowledge, all that got messed up. And now when I look at Penina, I see your sheitel, I see your skin before I see your inner essence. And I have to work to get to know you. Right. So it's a tragedy, but it's a reality. And, it's a responsibility also as a Jewish woman that when, as I said before, when I get up in the morning, I have to say, really, what am I doing today? I can't predict everything, but like, what do I have planned? And who do I need? Like, how can I reveal my inner essence through what I wear? And that is why I own a shaitel. Because I'm not a public speaker like you, then I haven't had to wear it, and I haven't chosen to. But I personally, when I'm in a public situation, I address the scarf first. If I feel like it's maybe creating a barrier that I don't mean to create, I do address it, and I say, hey, you might notice the scarf on my head. This is why I wear it, and just get that out of the way. But I have to be really careful, as you said, when I'm in that social situation, I have to put on a scarf that is not, as you said, going to be distracting, because I want people to see my face and what's coming out through my mouth, not what's sparkling on my head. And that's gonna change depending on the social situation. What I wear at a wedding might be different. What I wear to, let's say, a religious wedding might be different to what I wear to my secular friend's wedding when I go to that. So that's what I have to say about that. I wanted to actually touch on your point about women and competition. And as you said, it's a difficult thing. We put people into boxes, and that's not a bad thing. I think, all those women that say, like, wear what you want, do what you want, first of all, that's a lot of pressure, because like, if you say, Andrea, do what you want, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I want. I want to I want to make people happy, right? So like, how am I going to, like, if I want to make people happy, or like, because that makes me happy, very selfish thing for me to want to make people happy. Saying do what you want is a lot of pressure. And that's actually, I think, what our generation's greatest pressure is, that we're told from an early age is that you can do whatever you want. And then we wake, you can be any religion, you can do any job, anything. And then we wake up like all this pressure, because you're like, did I make the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? Because I could be doing that, or I could be doing that, or I could be married to that person instead. Right? It's very, very constraining. So I think, like, actually we're trying to give people freedom, but we're actually making them captive of their own fears when we do that. But what I really recognize, and this is actually something that I saw on that conversation that someone said, is that we have to really give people credit. Is that if we're doing shiur or we're speaking to an audience, people can sniff out insecurity. People can sniff out if you're forcing yourself into a box. If you're comfortable in your box, that's beautiful. If you love what you're doing and love how you're covering and feel really good about it, that's what they're going to notice. So again, getting hired for a gig, that's a totally, I don't have much advice on that or much to say on that. But once you're there, you really, really, you have to feel really at one with your body, and really feel like whatever you've covered your body with is going to help your message. Because, when I had a Rebbetzin that wore a shaitel, and she looked great in her shaitel. I had no idea it was a shaitel. And when she finally told me it was a shaitel, I wasn't creeped out like I was with some other woman, because it was her.
Right.
Whereas someone like, let's say, Gila Mandelson, who would, never wear a shaitel, she looks like her when she wears her tichels. So it's really a question that you have to ask yourself every single day. And it's not easy. It's really not easy.
Yeah, I keep confusing the daylights out of people, and they'll meet me one time, and they'll meet me with a shaitel on, and then they'll come to my house for Shabbos, and they'll walk in, and I look, like what I call settler chic. I'm wearing my flowy scarf, and I'm wearing my flowy dresses, and they're like, "Whoa, what did you do with Penina?" But okay, thank you so much for that. I have another question. What would you say to an observant or newly observant or modern Orthodox woman who is struggling with the whole issue? And I really think in many ways you've already kind of covered a lot of the issues, but maybe one last thing that you would say to a woman who is struggling with this whole issue of head covering.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why a woman might be struggling. So first you have to get to the root of that. The majority of women that I talk to that might say they're struggling are struggling because, first of all, they don't have the technique. And that's so easy to fix. It's like, I always tell people that tying a scarf is like tying your shoes. The first couple of times, I don't know if you remember learning how to tie your shoes. it was traumatic for me because I'm a perfectionist and I could not get it and I just wanted to give up and, wear a Velcro for the rest of my life. But after a week, you're doing it with your eyes closed. And it's the same with scarf tying. The first couple of times is very frustrating and you just want to throw it all out. But you just have to stick with it, do a couple of simple ties, really, really find some colors that make you happy, and you're good to go. So that is the majority of women that I speak to, that's usually their issue. Now, and other women might have issues. Let's say their husband doesn't like change. Your husband doesn't like and says that he doesn't like the way she looks in scarves, and that takes a little more time. I do find, and I don't want to say blanket statement, obviously, because every marriage is different, that the majority of husbands want their wife to look and feel beautiful. Also, the majority of husbands don't like change. So it takes time. If a woman changes how she looks and a husband's like, well, why would you do that? I like you the way you are. Like, why would you? But after a while, if he notices that she's shining brighter, she's smiling more, he doesn't really know why, but he's going to be happy that she's happy. That's really going to take a while. And the last point I have to make about, women that are struggling is the boxes that you brought up. And that's a sad reality of the Jewish world. You're living in Israel. You have it worse than I do here in America, and it's still pretty bad here. Is that we so much want to put people in boxes. And as you said, we live in a physical world. It's natural to look at someone and, want to say, oh, this is what she's doing. But, as we're coming out of the fast of Av, I think it's so important to remember that even though we have all these boxes and different ways of observing Torah, that's beautiful. That's what Hashem wants, is he wants us to be playing different instruments. We're not supposed to all be playing the same song on the same instrument. We're supposed to be doing different things. But we really have to appreciate and understand and look beyond the surface. As you said, with Penina isn't just this woman in a suit wearing a sheitel. She's also the hippie, cooking Shabbos in her tichel. And that's, when someone realizes that, it makes you more whole and it makes them more whole as well. So once a woman really, really, it's very hard to get past that. It's very hard if you grew up in a box and let's say you wanted to step out of it, and then maybe, God forbid, you realize that I have to go back into it. But when I go back into, like, let's say observance of covering my hair, people are going to say things. They are. But you really have to be, like, in the end, the person that you answer to is your creator. And in the end, as I said at the beginning, you have to go to sleep at night feeling whole. And that's my bottom line. It's like when I have a difficult decision, I have to say, like, is this decision going to help me go to sleep tonight feeling whole and feeling at one with my creator?
Awesome. Be whole to be holy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Hashem does not tell us how to be holy. In the Torah, we're told to be holy. We're not told what kippah to wear. We're not told what color scarf to wear, anything like that. So that's going to be a different answer for every single person.
Amen. All right. So tell us a little bit about Rapunzel, the store, the business, how people can find it, how they can get resources, how they can find you, et cetera, if they want to put on a show in their town.
Okay. So call me, email me. If you go to Rapunzel.com, that's our storefront. If you go to Rapunzel.wordpress.com, that is the original Rapunzel blog where it all started. And on there, you'll find tons of different women featured, lots of tutorials. There's also a Facebook group, which is very, very active if you want to go on just to get advice about almost anything. But if you want to, if you're in a scarf rut in the morning and you don't know what to wear, just go on that group and you'll get some inspiration. How to find me, like, our email is listed everywhere, but it's rapunzelthestore@gmail.com. For events, if you email events@rapunzel.com, we will come. Everyone says, like, oh, come to so-and-so, come to so. I'm like, well, you have to invite us, so write to us and we'll come. We will make a date and we'll come, and it's so beautiful to see the energy that happens in a town that brings us out, because it reverberates, it lasts forever. And you can really, especially small towns, it changes the community because women are just feeling so much better about themselves. So we absolutely love doing it.
Well, we absolutely love you, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was so exciting being able to talk with you. I know that our listeners and watchers are going to be tremendously inspired by you. And my bracha to you is that you will continue to make people happy and that you will continue to help women to be able to not just do the mitzvah of covering their head, but to be able to do it with joy. And I look forward to spending many more years with you and doing many more of these talks with you, and give your brand new baby a kiss, okay?
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe we'd be dancing together in Jerusalem very, very soon.
Very soon. Amen.